Hello, and welcome to All Together Now. My name is Lisa Wong. I'm so glad we can be together this evening. Tonight, we're exploring a topic very dear to my heart as a musician-physician, music and healing. To give you some sense of my perspective on the topic, in the course I teach at Harvard called The Role of Music in Education and Health, we talk about the ways that music can teach the developing child, connect people who share no other common ground, and reach patients in new ways. The advances in neuroimaging over the last 50 years have significantly deepened our scientific understanding of music's impact on the brain. Tonight, I have two very exciting guest musicians who are doing their own kind of healing. Our first guest is the violin, voice, and freestyle composition artist, Mazz Swift. And later on, I'll be joined by an old friend, Arthur Bloom, the founder of MusiCorps. MusiCorps is a conservatory-level music rehabilitation program that helps severely wounded warriors play music and recover their lives. Critically acclaimed as one of America's most talented and versatile performers today, Mazz Swift is a singer, composer, and Juilliard-trained violinist who plays electric and acoustic instruments. Mazz engages audiences with the signature weaving of song, melody, improvisational music, and electronica to create a rich, unique, and diverse musical experience. In addition, she does a lot to bring music into the community, and we're delighted to have her with us tonight. Welcome, Mazz.
Hi, Lisa. So good to be here.
It's so good to see you. Now, in addition to your amazing concert and composition work, you've done some really interesting projects engaging the community through writing music. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So I've worked with various projects. I've traveled all over the world, 6 continents and counting. I've worked with the State Department doing cultural diplomacy type things, also working with kids in New Orleans on improvisation and conduction, which is conducted improvisation, and also working with their teachers who are members of the Philharmonic there on the same thing, on conduction and free improvisation. But I also work here in New York City with Carnegie Hall, and they have a couple of different programs that I am part of. One is the Musical Connections project at Sing Sing Penitentiary, where I go in and work with these wonderfully talented men who are composers, songwriters, and instrumentalists, multi-instrumentalists usually, where we work on string studies as well as composition. And of course, I also do the conduction there as well, preaching the gospel. And I also work at Rikers Island in the Rose M. Singer part, which is where the women are held. And we do something called the Lullaby Project, where we write songs. I work with expectant parents, godparents, aunties, grandparents, guardians, those kinds of people to write music for their children, their loved children. And I also have done that sort of all over the city. Latest one was embedded in a high school working with young mothers who were also writing lullabies.
That is so beautiful. There's something so special about writing songs with others. Can you tell me more about how these collaborations work?
Sure. So for instance, with the guys at Sing Sing, they have so much content. Usually it's more of a coaching kind of situation. And always with everyone I'm working with, I'm really trying to make sure that what they want to say is being heard and make sure I'm understanding what they're putting out there. So for instance, in the Lullaby Project, where we are encouraging people to write music, and some of these people aren't even musicians, don't have any musical experience, I become their instrument. I ask them to write a letter to their baby, tell me what kind of music they like, what kind of music the baby likes if they've been born, or even if they respond while in the belly. I think somebody wrote a song called "My Baby Likes Bacon and Gospel." So things like that.
So there's so many layers. There's the hearing the stories, asking about their hopes and dreams, and then giving their agency also to create what they're imagining. how long do you work together? And do they have say about the melodies as well?
Oh yeah, they sure do. I basically, some of them are extremely musically inclined, but a lot of people aren't. And I basically just tell them, listen, don't worry about hurting my feelings. I'm just going to throw something out there. And if you like it, let me know. If you don't, we can scrap it and start from scratch, or you can just tell me what you like. So it's a slow process. That, you know, it's a collaborative thing back and forth. I just throw stuff out there. They come back at me and say, yes, I like it. No, I don't. And we keep it moving. There's been a few different models. One is where we go in and it's sort of quick, you know, in 3 hours time, we introduce ourselves. We find out about their babies. We find out what things they like. And then we just start to throw stuff together. We do it over an hour's time and then come back together with the group and play those songs that have been written within an hour. But the other way that I personally like a lot, because I feel like I'm getting to know the people as I was embedded in this school, where I came back every other week, myself and a colleague or two at times. And so then we always try to get as much information from the beginning. And then, but then we can go away and work on it, or if I have a brainstorm, I can just add to it, and then I can come back and play it for them, and then it's just a more fleshed out version of what we've done in the quick one-off type settings.
So it sounds like it's just such a wonderful exercise in wholeness and wellness. You're meeting them where they're at, getting their stories, and then creating something together into something that's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what I love about it is that I'm basically, again, trying to make it be all about their voice, right? But the truth is that my sound is going to get in there, especially as a one person who's actually playing the music and you know, contributing musical information. Based on my interpretation of what they say. So it really does become a beautiful collaboration between the two of us. And I'm always, always, always checking with them. Are you sure you're cool with this? Do you like this? You know, just to make sure that they know that it's that what they say and what they want is at the top of my priorities. You know? So it becomes a really beautiful thing. It's really fun to see people create when they may not even believe that they can create, but then they do. It's lovely.
So you're inspiring them, they're inspiring you. Together, you're creating something that's new. This sounds a lot like improvisation.
Yeah, yes, yes, it is. You know, I feel like improvisation is, I always say if I were to profess to having a religion, it would be improvisation. I do believe it is a way of life, but I also feel like it's a very natural state of being for all human beings. Even somewhat in this conversation, we're improvising in general. We improvise when we're doing our lives. And it's just a matter of recognizing that aspect and purposely using it to create something that you want, create the world that you want, whether it be the very small world around you or, you know, your community or the world at large. I actually really do believe it saves lives and will change the world if we let it.
So I understand that you have improvised a piece of music specifically for us tonight. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's a little bit of sound painting. I'm very into my effects these days. So really working with a keyboard and some effect pedals and some vocals. It's all processed and do some looping. For the audience, it's a good idea. If you are not using headphones or earbuds, maybe you go grab some. You're going to hear a lot of that stuff a lot better. But either way, I hope it'll be a fulfilling experience. But yeah, it's created specifically for this. I did it last night. I think Moscow, my turtle up there, had a lot he was doing little interpretive dance for you as well. So
thanks so much. I'm so excited. So let's roll that video now, please.
Thank you.
Ah, that was amazing. As a violinist who can only play on four strings, I am so fascinated by the looping and the extra percussion and the five-string instrument you play on.
Oh, thank you.
I love how it starts so organically behind the bridge of the violin with tapping, and then the low notes and low sounds that just sort of come organically from as if it's coming from the earth.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny about those words because in the moment I was thinking I could say I'll be here or I'll be gone. And I was kind of trying to figure out how I felt in the moment. And I just kind of right when the words started coming out of my mouth, I took that right turn and just said, no, I'll be here. I'm not feeling cynical and at this moment. It's been an interesting 4 months. So yeah, and that actually felt very affirmative, and I was happy about that choice.
I think a lot of the listeners will hear that in what you're saying, and I think our ambivalence in this time, because there's so much tension, makes complete sense. And so maybe that's what really is so appealing when I hear the music, that I can hear your ambivalence and your choice to go to hope.
I appreciate that.
This is something that you do a lot in your compositions. I wanted to ask you actually about another piece of yours called 16 Hits and Misses that you wrote to memorialize people impacted by police violence, including the police themselves. And again, we have the dichotomy. And can you tell me more about that piece?
Sure. The 16 Hits and Misses is kind of a really large project, but the one that is dedicated to the victims of police violence, including the police, is called the Free Series. And I basically wanted to memorialize the folks whose names that many people know now. But at the time I wrote it in 2015. So I really wanted to say their names, really. I wanted to write about Trayvon Martin. I wanted to write about Aiyana Jones and Sandra Bland, who I still really relate to so much as a woman of color who does not shut up when she feels she's being wronged. So those pieces are for them, but they're also to look at the entire situation. So I've got people thinking about Donald Trump, and I've got people thinking about George Zimmerman, who killed Trayvon Martin, and I've got people thinking about predatory affluence and what that does to a person and to a community and to a whole people, the people who allow it to happen and the people it's happening to. And then I sort of wrap it all up with meditation on loving kindness, which I also firmly believe will change the world if we practice it even just a little bit every day.
I know that WQXR has shared a video with cellist Hannah Collins and violinist Clara Lyon, a violinist and cellist playing some selections from 16 Hits and Misses just last month. Well, I just want to encourage everyone to check that out on WQXR.
I love them so much. I thank you for bringing that up, because those two are just incredible people and beautiful musicians, and it was an honor to have that played.
And even though it's just the excerpts, each one of those tells a story already. And I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you, Mazz, through your compositions, your improvisations, and sharing them with communities of need. All of us are communities of need. You have touched so many lives. So this is so inspiring. So Mazz, thank you so much for being here with me tonight and for sharing your rich and vibrant work with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to get to know you and speak with you, Lisa. I look forward to more.
Me too. Take care.
Take care.
Our next guest, Arthur Bloom, is a Juilliard and Yale-trained pianist and composer who works in both classical and popular music. Arthur is the founder and executive director of MusiCorps, as well as the music director of MusiCorps Wounded Warrior Band. I've known Arthur for almost 10 years now, and I had the privilege of visiting him and the musicians he works with at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center just a few years ago. Hey, Arthur.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you. So can you share with our audience a little bit about how MusiCorps got started?
Sure. MusiCorps started with a visit. There was an injured soldier at Walter Reed who used to play the drums, and he had been injured by a roadside bomb that took off his leg, and he was concerned that he'd never play the drums again. So a mutual friend, someone who I knew who was working at Walter Reed, suggested that I visit with him with no particular goal in mind, but thought that might be helpful. So I went to Walter Reed and we wound up speaking for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. We decided he was eager to try things out, that I would come back and we would start experimenting. So I came back and helped him regain the ability to play the drums, and we experimented with equipment. But through that experience of going to Walter Reed at that point, day after day, and seeing that it was full of injured combat veterans with very severe injuries and very little to do outside of medical appointments for what could be years, what if we started a music program for anybody, regardless of their music background, the severity of their injury? What would the best music program we could put together look like? So we started this thing as an experiment, bringing in some equipment and great musicians, essentially established a specialized conservatory. One after the next, we found that everybody that could be part of it wanted to be part of it. And suddenly there's music in the halls, and the musical accomplishment started to spread out to other parts of these service members' lives.
So you're meeting them both physically and musically where they're at, and walking with them from there. So can you tell me about other examples of musicians that you've come across? Because they are musicians, aren't they?
It's the program meets their musical needs, but it also meets other needs that they're having. I mean, they have, you have someone who's that severely injured in a hospital room. The first needs that they're thinking about aren't what are my musical needs. They're needs of, purpose and, identity and all these things that they have to rethink to sort of get their life going again. And it turns out that music can have a big part in that.
So I know there was one particular young man who I'm a pianist as well as a violinist, and so I really love the story of Todd Love, and who is also a pianist, isn't he?
That's right. So Todd, just a remarkable person who was a recon Marine, sort of a very sort of brave and difficult job, and got just severely injured by a roadside bomb that took off 3 of his limbs. So he's a triple amputee at Walter Reed, brilliant, bored out of his mind. And we filled a void. And we actually came into his room and put a keyboard in his room, not just learn how to play the piano with his prosthetic arm, but also composing and using software like GarageBand, write music, compose music. And suddenly he's, playing piano all the time and getting really good at it. So there's a Bach solfeggiato where I made an arrangement for him to accommodate the limitations of his prosthetic, because his prosthetic can only effectively play one note at a time. So I'm taking some of those notes from the left hand to put in the right hand to compensate, and dumbing it down just a little bit. And so I present this to him, and he starts working on it, and he realizes that I've dumbed it down, because when you switch all these other notes to the right hand actually gets exponentially more difficult. So he wasn't happy with that, my sort of kind of watered down version. So we restored all those original notes. So now his right hand is doing that much more difficult part, while his left hand does, as much as it can do, but he's able to play this just absolutely convincingly. And as he's able to use his prosthetic, not just to be at the right place at the right time, but with feeling and the right nuance and touch, just in a very organic musical way. So, so he's something.
Such an inspiring story about Todd Love, and just that he can play with his left hand with the prosthetic in musical ways. And it gets me to think about how these soldier musicians are. I mean, they've been trained with excellence, right? They're expected to be excellent in their work from day to day. And so when they go back and are musicians, they want their music teachers to expect the same kind of excellence. They want to be truly challenged.
What you said is actually a really sort of critical point about MusiCorps, that your observation is really incredibly insightful, because that's sort of a main engine of what's going on, which is that, you know, you have these people like Todd are incredibly accomplished, incredibly brilliant, and they get injured, and now suddenly everybody wants to cut their meat for them, and they're infantilized, and suddenly they're not challenged at, you know, not just the level that they were operating at and who they are, but just compared to sort of in this average, they're being treated below average, which drives them crazy. So we don't do that. Our expectations are very high for them, and that suddenly makes them feel like who they are again, and the switches start to flip on.
Now, I recall meeting a really impressive young man named Greg Galeazzi, who's also a musician, I believe, who was a member of MusiCorps.
He was interested in learning Moonlight Sonata on the piano. So what I've often done with that, when someone who is relatively new to the instrument wants to learn it, is I have Beethoven wrote it in C sharp minor, and it's hard. There's a D minor version without all those scary sharps. It's much more beginner level friendly. So I have that version that I can sort of hand out and work on with beginners. And so I handed that to him, and then, you know, cheeky Greg Galeazzi goes home. He listens to recording of the original in C sharp minor and reverse engineers it. So when he comes back, he's playing it in the original C sharp minor with his hands crossed, obviously, because he has only one usable finger on his right hand, so he has to play reverse anyway. But actually, what he's doing by doing that is really amazing. I mean, that's extraordinary stuff that, you know, to give a sense of, you know, this isn't a superficial, feel-good, kumbaya, 1 hour every Wednesday program. This is someone who made a study of the original and was able to reverse engineer it accurately.
You had told me the story of Greg when we had met, I think, at the Crossing the Corpus Callosum conference that Longwood Symphony put on about music and medicine. But then the next time I met Greg was when he came to interview at Harvard Medical School, where he is now a student. So out of this training and the shared expectations of excellence, you're really helping people recover not just their musical abilities or explore the musical abilities, but they're really recovering their lives. So in fact, what you add on also is now you have a band. So you've got collaboration going on between the musicians. They're all working towards something far beyond themselves, and then they're sharing it with an audience. I think we actually have a video, right, of the MusiCorps Wounded Warrior Band playing with cellist Yo-Yo Ma, performing Wide River to Cross. So let's listen to that. This is Wide River to Cross, written by Julie Miller and Stephen Miller, and let's roll the video now.
Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
There's a sorrow in the wind blowing down the road I've been. I can hear it cry while shadows still but I cannot look back now. I've come too far to turn around, 'cause there's still a race ahead that I must run. I'm only halfway home. I've got to journey on to where I'll find the things that I have lost. I've come a long, long road. Still got some miles to go. I've got a wide river to cross. I have stumbled, I have strayed. You can trace the tracks I made all across the memories that my heart recalls. But I'm still a refugee. Won't you say a prayer for me? 'Cause sometimes even the strongest soldier falls. I'm only halfway home. I've got to journey on to where I'll find the things that I have lost. I've come a long, long road. Still got some miles to go. Got a wide river to cross. I've got a wide river to cross.
Wow, that was such an inspiring performance. Just watching everybody playing with and to each other and sharing it with the audience, that was just so beautiful. Thank you, Arthur. Can you tell us who the other band members are?
Yes, so Tim Donley was singing lead vocals. Also singing vocals was Rex Thorpe and Marcus Dandria. On guitar was Nathan Kalwicki, Josh Cawthorn, and Greg Loman, who was one of our teaching artists at the time. And that was me on piano with shorter hair and some obscure cellist who figured we'd, give a break to.
And he looked like he really was happy to be part of that band. So that's really beautiful. So now what's next? Where are we going with MusiCorps in the future?
So we have a few things in the works. We are pandemic willing, establishing a West Coast program. So for the past decade plus, we've been on the East Coast with Walter Reed, and San Diego is the #1 county in the country for returning vets from Iraq and Afghanistan. And there's a tremendous veteran population here, a lot of tremendous musician population here too. So we're establishing MusiCorps West to provide MusiCorps up and down the coast. Also, speaking of the pandemic, because of the pandemic, like so many other programs, we've gone online. So we've been offering our sessions now virtually between the teaching artists and the service members who are participating in the program. It's actually going pretty well. I think, the circumstances have normalized online so much so fast that that we're actually interested in developing that to be able to reach even more veterans who wouldn't necessarily be located at one of the places where we would offer the program in person.
This is a good silver lining for what's going on in our world right now. And I'm just so inspired by the work that you're doing. You're empowering others and helping people find their way of healing, their path forward. So I really appreciate that. So thank you, Arthur, for your inspiring and healing work and for joining us tonight and for all the things you're doing with MusiCorps.
Well, thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity to share something of our program with you and everybody watching.
Bye-bye. So thanks to Arthur, and also thanks to Mazz Swift for being with us this evening. We have links in the comment section so that if you want to find more about Mazz Swift and about Arthur and his work, we'd also ask you to just go and visit that and get to know them. We'd also like to thank our production assistant, Justin Lehue, and thank you to you for being such a great audience tonight. Now, if you'd like to see more of All Together Now, please like and subscribe on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And if you enjoy All Together Now, please consider making a tax-deductible donation to support the show and the artists who appear on it. The link is on the comment section, and you click on See More in Facebook and Show More on your YouTube channel. 60% of the funds raised will be paid directly to the artists who appear on this show. On Thursday, Bobbie Steinbach will be back, and her guests will be the artist and community organizer Miranda Ashling and the journalist Brian Shackman, morning anchor for NBC 10 Boston. Until Thursday, keep a song in your heart and have good thoughts. Good night.